morning, preschool. Today we're going to read Mr. Seahorse. This is an exceptionally pretty book. It has really neat things inside, and we're going to find all about seahorses. This is by Eric Carle. We love his illustrations. They're always really colorful. Mr. and Mrs. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea. Mrs. Seahorse began to wiggle and twist this way and that. "It's time for me to lay my eggs," she said. "Can I help?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Oh, yes, thank you," said Mrs. Seahorse, and she laid her eggs into a pouch on Mr. Seahorse's belly. "I'll take good care of your eggs," said Mr. Seahorse. "I promise." Who else has babies in a pouch on their belly? Kangaroos? As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by, isn't this neat? It opens up. A group of trumpet fish hidden in a patch of reeds. Very interesting fish. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Stickleback?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Delighted," said Mr. Stickleback. "I just built a nest, and right away Mrs. Stickleback laid her eggs into it. Now I'm taking good care of them until they hatch." "Keep up the good work," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by, what do you think's behind those plants? A lionfish hidden behind a coral reef. Isn't he interesting? So where does Mr. Seahorse go next? But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Tilapia?" asked Mr. Seahorse. Mr. Tilapia couldn't answer. His mouth was full of eggs. I know," said Mr. Seahorse. "Mrs. Tilapia laid her eggs. Now you are taking good care of them until they hatch." Mr. Tilapia nodded his head. "You must be very happy," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. Fish do some very interesting things, don't they? As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by, what's behind here? A pair of leaf fish hidden among the seaweed. They lovely. I love that this book has extra pages we can look behind. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Curtis?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Perfectly fine," said Mr. Curtis. "Mrs. Curtis laid her eggs, and I have stuck them on my head. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch." "You are doing a good job," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. That's interesting. I didn't know any fish laid eggs on the other fish's head. But then you know right where they are, don't you? As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by, what do you think's back here? A stonefish hidden behind a rock. Must be why they call him a stonefish, huh? Blends right in. Keeps him safe so he doesn't get eaten. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Pipe?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Couldn't be better," replied Mr. Pipe. "Mrs. Pipe laid her eggs along my belly. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch." "You should feel proud of yourself," said Mr. Seahorse, and he swam on his way. Almost looks like he has little buttons where all the little eggs are in his stomach. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Bullhead?" asked Mr. Seahorse. Tip-top, said Mr. Bullhead. Mrs. Bullhead laid her eggs, and the eggs hatched. Now I'm babysitting. You are doing a very fine job, said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. All those babies. The time had come for the seahorse babies to be born. Mr. Seahorse wiggled and twisted his way, this and that, and this and that, and Mr. Seahorse's, At last the babies tumbled from Mr. Seahorse's pouch and swam away. One baby turned around and tried to come back into the pouch. Oh no, said Mr. Seahorse. I do love you, but now you are ready to be on your own. And off all those baby seahorses swam. And that is how we get seahorses and some of the other fish in the sea. I really enjoyed that, and I love the beautiful pictures. Hope you have a great day. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.